I think the other one who we hoped would be surprising, we knew it was going to be a little divisive up front, was Agnes. And then to see her kind of evolution through the season, and to see people embrace her, it was also great.
I'll agree with that, and also say I'm one of the many people who didn't see the Thing connection coming whatsoever, and I couldn't believe it. Jenna, you're getting my next big two-part question. I'm going to attempt to hit even more characters or actors with this one. So she interacts with so many people this season, and so many of them really change who she is. So can you maybe tell me someone who you were most excited to get to work with and see how they evolve the character, but then also someone that you never expected to influence Wednesday the way that they ultimately did?
Very good question. It's a very difficult question because we had so many incredible people join. You know, Steve Buscemi, I was really excited to see what he would do. Joanna Lumley is just absolutely divine. You know, so it was exciting to elaborate with Joanna, especially just because, you know, she's contributing to a family of really brilliant, strong, vile women. And I really liked that. Who impacted Wednesday in a way that I didn't anticipate? Honestly, young Evie Templeton, Agnes, she's been such a great addition to the show and really holds up a mirror to Wednesday, and I love working with younger actresses who are as dedicated as she is, and you know, to see her, she dresses up with the braids as well, and does the whole thing. It just was it was great to see Wednesday so affected.
I don't blame you. I was so impressed by how she stepped into an existing show when, you know, it's like the train has already left the station. I have to imagine it must be really intimidating, and she just tackles that character with like such precision and authority, which I think
like she's always been there, and that's everybody who's joined the show. Really, it's the same thing with Steve, and it's just kind of a testament to the creative team and, you know, Tim's eye and things like that.
Without a doubt. All right, Catherine, you're next up on my list here. And I want to start to dig into the Morticia and Wednesday relationship. And I jotted down a question about one of my favorite qualities about it, but I think it kind of speaks to the Addams family in general, as long as it's existed. Like, there's something so like uniquely specific about their relationship in terms of like the darkness and how solemn they are and all of that, but at the same time there's something so relatable about their connection that I think a lot of people out there can see themselves in. So can you kind of speak to that, capturing what makes them unique, but also making sure it speaks to everybody watching?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most wonderful aspects of playing Morticia, is that yes, she is the matriarch of the family, and she's the matriarch of a very quirky family that embraces their idiosyncrasies, and she has a daughter that is like a polar opposite of her, in that, you know, we have a dove and a raven, and it's like my mother always said, it's like you can't put an older head on young shoulders. She wants Wednesday to go through this journey and find her way, but she can foresee so much that would go on, and this contentious relationship. Yeah, I think that a lot of just from the fan base that I've found during the show is that people relate to the show because of their wonderful idiosyncrasies, and that we embrace them. That's such an appealing thing. It's okay to be, you know, who you are with warts and all, and I think that that's a wonderful thing to play between Wednesday and Morticia.
Any show that speaks to that, Wilbur, always went into my heart, and yours most definitely did. All right, Louise, I was very, very excited to ask you about working with Isaac this season, because his expanded role is something else, and he really just crushed it. And the father-son relationship is something that also jumped out at me. So can you tell us a little bit about working with him? And also maybe what Gomez thinks it means to be a good dad changes over the course of the season?
Okay, loaded question.
Oh, yeah.
Well, first of all, Isaac, I'm very proud of him because he has blossomed. First season, he pretty much this kid showing up to work with these heavyweights, and it's like, you know, he like bypassed the minor leagues and went straight to the big leagues. But we embraced them, and you know. I know for myself, I gave him tips. I worked with him. And he's just a really, really cool kid. You know, he pays attention to what's going on, and sometimes he doesn't pay attention to what's going on. But that's good. Keeps him raw that way, you know? But, no, man, he's very delightful and to work with. He's a mama's boy because his mom is with him all the time. That's not a bad thing. But like I say, he really has evolved, and the arc that you guys have gave him has given him the opportunity to really develop, not only with me, but also with Jenna, Catherine, and the rest of the cast. Like, you know, he stands alone. Okay, so what was the second part of the relationship?
Well, the second one was the heavier part of the question. I want to know what Gomez thinks it means to be a good dad changes over the course of season 2.
Yeah, so, you know, being a good dad, you're kind of setting an example out there to the world, really, to the universe. And I embrace that because, you know, family means everything to me. And to be the father in a show like this, and to be an outcast father, which I take a lot of pride in, it's a beautiful thing, and like I said, for me, it's very prideful. I love being a dad in real life, and you know, I use those skills and those elements in my own life that I bring as Gomez and to my family and to the rest of the cast. So, okay?
I'll take it. Beautiful answer. Catherine, I'll jump back to you briefly, because I gave the two of them the opportunity to shout out some co-stars in Wednesday, but not you, so I want to give you that chance right now. Can you tell us a co-star that you had a scene with in Wednesday season 2 that was kind of like just the scene partner you needed in the moment? Maybe helped you find something in your own character that you wouldn't have been able to without them?
Well, of course, when Buscemi came on the set, talk about a chameleon actor, you know. Buscemi has made me cry and made me laugh, you know, literally, like my rib is broken laughing in movies that he's done. And there he is as, you know, our new principal. It was genius casting, and he just threw himself into it, you know. It's and that was wonderful. But of course, being a Brit, when Joanna Lumley was cast as my mother, that was something that I was just overwhelmed. And she was, you know, when you grow up with somebody and you just admire them so much, and then all of a sudden you get to work with them, you just hope that they're going to be not everything that you imagine them to be, and she was that and more, you know. And I just love it, and I'm hoping that maybe our wonderful creative team over here will, like, you know, look into that relationship more, and I'm so happy to be part of season 3 when we get to do it. But that was amazing, and of course, delving into my relationship with Jenna and as Wednesday, and then doing a tango with this guy. Because that was, remember us rehearsing outside in the trailers? We were into it. We could have done like the whole episode on tango. It's just one of those shows that, you know, everything comes together when the stars are aligned, and it's a wonderful environment in which to be creative. Everyone is kind. Everyone is bringing their A game. All those new cast members came in, and it comes from the top. You know, this president's this set, and you're just happy to turn up to work. And I've done quite a bit. We both have, and it's just a joy to be part of this show. Really, thank you guys.
We'll take that, and I'll also add the request for more Joanna Lumley and more tango in season 3, please. Top row now. Colleen, you're first on my list. Press, I'm giving you a 2-part question because there's so many wonderful designs that you give us this season, and I wish we had time to highlight every single one, but because we do not. Going into production, can you tell me which single one you thought was going to be the toughest for you to pull off, and if ultimately that was, or a different look, catch you by surprise?
Well, going into season 1, I didn't really know what was going to be hard and what wasn't going to be hard. Because you never really know because of timings and all those things. But when I got hit with Lady Gaga with a week to get it together, that was kind of scary to me. Because, it's her, first of all, is a great artist, but also it was a costume that you kind of had to figure out a character from a backstory, and you're sort of making it up, and at the same time you're doing it, you're fitting it, and suddenly she's wearing it. So that was really a tricky moment for me, but the overall thing, when you have a show like Wednesday that's so specifically, styled, like it kind of through a visionary like Tim, through actors like Jenna, Catherine, Louise here, everybody, that you want to do better than you did the last season. So it's like that's the hardest part and the most fearful part of another season on a show, that you really are happy with the first season, but you don't want to do the same thing.
I love forcing people to give each other flowers, especially when someone expresses that kind of nerves and doubts about meeting the standards set in the first season. So now, looking back at what you accomplished in season 2, is there a particular costume that makes you think, like, I did it, I raised the bar with that one?
Well, I think in my mentality with it, it's not really the costume. I think the ball scene. I was thinking about the word. The ball scene was like really, for Mark, my co-designer, Mark Sutherland, and I, was a really big moment. And we had that moment the whole time we were shooting. We knew there was gonna be a ball. So we were building these amazing costumes the whole time we were doing the show, and having it kind of come to vision. Steve Buscemi alone, Catherine's costume, Jenna's, Joanna Lumley, Gwendolyn's. I mean, everybody's stuff was big. So it was really fun to go big and go costume with that in that way.
That piece is really something else. Chris, for you, I jotted down something you had said in another interview that really spoke to me. You were talking about how when you develop a melody or a theme for a character, you've got to ask yourself, what are ways that this can be expanded? So can you maybe walk us through doing that for a particular character in season 2, kind of figuring out, where to start with a new theme or melody and how to leave, room to grow, especially when I think you don't get all of the scripts right out the gate?
Sure. So season 2, I don't know the storylines, and I kind of like working that way because I like discovering the way that the audience is discovering musically. And so with Isaac / Slurp / the zombie, the only real scene in the first episode is the stop motion scene. It's our kind of introduction to the Telltale Heart. And I knew that this was going to be a featured character, but I had no idea what his storyline was going to be. So I love the opportunity that Wednesday, the show, provides to be thematic and melodic. But yeah, it's a trick to try to write something that, if this needs to be scary, can it be scary? If this needs to be heroic, can I go that way with it? If this needs to be emotional and heartbreaking, can I do that? And with Isaac, as the season goes along, he becomes pretty awful, right? But there's opportunities for bombast. There's opportunities for kind of twisted family moments. There's opportunities for moments between he and Pugsley that are kind of more emotional. And so trying to just leave room in a theme and to think about where can this go when I'm creating it is part of the process when I'm starting out.
With that particular character,
the
journey is quite extreme. Jen, for you, I was reading a little bit about how in some cases the producers script a particular song. I think that was the case with the Blackpink song in episode 6, but I was wondering if you could give us an example of the opposite, something where a specific song wasn't specified and maybe it took, I don't know, the most thinking through or the most workshopping to pinpoint the perfect song for that moment.
That's a really good question. I think, we had it scripted that there was going to be another big dance at the ball, and it was kind of like, okay, well, guys, what are we doing with this? And they said, we want Lady Gaga. And I said, all right, I'm on it. And there was so much synergy between the camps. Gaga's camp was amazing. There was a whole storyline, and when we got that song, it was perfect. It was like, okay, no notes, done and done. So it was actually quite easy. But I think there's definitely some songs that we were able to put in, Sisters of Mercy, kind of maintaining our goth aesthetic, Rocky Erickson, I Walked with a Zombie, he's a very esoteric artist that, you know, again, fit right into the storyline, because the songs all, you know, contribute to the characters and the storyline. And I think Sweet Dreams for the finale, which was a very difficult song to get, it was very difficult. Annie Lennox is very protective of that song. And so Tim had to write a letter, which he did, which was just a very heartfelt letter, and we got the approval immediately. But it was very, we were very nervous for a while, but we got it.
I'm glad you did. It's such a perfect fit. All right, Mark, for you, I went down the rabbit hole of watching some behind the scenes videos, and the amount of in-camera work you're all able to do with the sets that you build, it really is just something else. So I was hoping you could maybe give us an example of something you wanted to build that maybe another production might have opted to not get in camera, and kind of explain why it was a priority for you to build it to the fullest.
That's a really good question, actually. I have to think about that a while. I mean, I think the approach we always take is we want to build everything as much as we can, and, you know, to the limit of what our boundaries are. And that's normally, in the end, is where the budget stops, or where, you know, people's imagination stops. But we always want to try and keep things human and never go to a sort of blue screen world where everything can be infinite and massive and huge. It always wants to be a proportion scale. I mean, I think, you know, most of our sets were that. I think when you sort of broke the wall and went into Nevermore, and like the clock tower particularly was something that Tim and myself wanted to build out as a miniature rather than as a CG effect or anything else. And obviously Tom helped us with that, but we did, right at the end of the show, we all built this model clock tower with all the details and all the elements of it, and blew it up, which was, you know, not something you do so much these days in shows, but we tried to do that. And same with Rockwood's Cottage. That was a miniature that we built that we then dropped into a forest. And it was something, you know, we planned to build it full size at one point, but it just seemed sort of, it was impractical, and we couldn't really afford it, and it didn't feature as much as we wanted it to, but we still wanted it to have the feel of the show and not lose that sort of handmade quality that we always try and strive for. So we built that as a very large miniature, and sort of wheeled it around from stage to stage with the Addams Family house, which we'd actually brought from Romania, which is one of the few things we brought back from Romania. That and Wednesday's dormitory window, which survived, that we had shipped over. But no, I think we always try and make the environments as fully fleshed out as we possibly can. You know, and even with the gala, that was a set that on paper we couldn't really afford to do. It was huge and grand, and we had to sit and sort of really put our heads together and figure out a way of making that set realize and the scale of it without actually, you know, smashing the budget to bits, because most of it is actually painted canvas and drapes, and we didn't have much time to put it in, because 3 weeks before we shot that had been the set where the sculpture was. So we had to rip out the forest, clean it out, and have all this stuff pre-built that then wheeled in, was set up, and all the drapes went up and everything went up, and hopefully it all fitted, and we filled the canal and it didn't leak. So it was a job, and it was always a job, but we always, you know, I will always try and give the cast and everybody a world rather than just, you know, bits and pieces.
I would advise anyone who has not seen it to go on YouTube after this and just Google a behind the scenes tour. It's like really next level stuff. Tom, for you, I got the same problem where there's so many things I want to focus on, but we don't have time to hit everything. So the character that I selected was Professor Orloff, Christopher Lloyd's character. And for him, I was wondering if you could kind of maybe walk us through the evolution of your process with creating him. When you first figured out you would have to work on that character, how did you think you'd go about executing it, and how does it compare to the techniques you wound up using?
Okay, that's an interesting question. Well, I mean, when I read it on the page, we knew it was going to be a very difficult character to realize and to flesh out. And then when we learned later that it was going to be Christopher Lloyd who played it, you know, that's another level that we had to lean into. There was a number of approaches we could have taken to it, and we kind of explored them. We ultimately pitched the idea of doing something that's called a volume capture. Without getting into too technical details, it's essentially scanning the actor live 60 times a second essentially capturing his performance exactly as he delivers it. It was kind of the most, in terms of production side, it was the easiest thing for us to do. It allowed us the most flexibility on set, allowed us to, just wheel around this cart with basically a spear on top of it, to be Professor Orloff on set. But in post-production, it's the most difficult thing we could have chosen to do. Because it's not a complicated idea, but it's incredibly data intensive, and having to manage all that and put it all together in post was a huge undertaking.
Can I extend the question to the ultimate look of the character in the end? How did you kind of picture the final design on screen and the finished product looking, and how did it evolve along the way as you figured out, maybe what worked and what didn't?
Well, with Professor Orloff, a lot of the design work was in the details. Like how much does the water distort his head? And it sounds like, okay, we're gonna put a head in the jar, that's easy, but actually when you actually put a real head in the jar, like a dummy head of course, it comes out looking pretty funny. And every time he turns or makes an expression or leans one way or another, his head distorts quite radically. So we actually went through quite a lot of iterations as how to manage that and how to finesse this look inside the jar. That's probably where we put most of the creative work into. Once we kind of established how we were going to do it, there was a lot of playing around with it to kind of get him to where he got to.
So good in the end. Alan Miles, I get to come back your way now, and I want to zero in on giving us some backstory on Thing, because whether it's your show or just the existence of the Addams family pretty much forever, that's something fans have always been curious about. So I am wondering, at what point in the development of season 2 did you realize now was the time to give that information, and what was it like figuring out the right backstory for this iconic character?
It was actually the idea for the season. So that was the first one we had, which was Thing's backstory. What's interesting about the Addams family is they didn't have names until the television show in the 60s. So in the Charles Addams panels, none of the characters are named. He named them for the TV show. And then, but other than the family, you don't really have a lot of mythology or lore or backstory, which has been great for us. It's been like an open canvas. It's like the opposite from when we did Smallville, which was you had so much lore and then you had to kind of carve out your own niche. This one, it's wide open. So Thing's backstory was something that we had figured out. We knew what the last scene was with the, Isaac putting the hand on him, and we wanted the fact that Isaac was somebody who was sort of tied into our world, and tied into Nevermore and tied into the Addams family, because I think there's a line in season 1 where Enid asks Wednesday what it's saying. He said, "That's the greatest Addams family mystery." And obviously we find out it's a mystery because Gomez and Morticia don't want to tell. It comes from a very painful, traumatic moment, and it's also, it answered another question for us, which is, why doesn't Gomez have the power? He's an outcast, and why doesn't he have the power? So we wanted to tie those two ideas together. And the idea that somehow Gomez's power brought Thing to life. So
he's such a, we've also discovered that everyone is intrigued by Thing. He's like an extremely popular character, and what Victor Dorgas, who plays Thing, and he brings such incredible personality to everything he does that Thing feels real. And there's a scene in season 1 where he's daggered to a column in Wednesday's room. It's really one of the most emotionally resonant moments in the whole show, and I think that was, when we wrote it, was like, oh, this could be the lamest thing of all time. Like, this is a disembodied hand. Why should anyone care? But the fact that, and then Jenna played it so brilliantly with Fred.
She brought him back to life.
And that's just like, it's so powerful, and that there's such emotion to Victor's performance of Things. Sounds ludicrous, but he really is a fully fleshed out character that you really, really care about. So it felt like season 2, let's really lean into Thing, and you're always looking for, the show is, it's family drama, but also it's a mystery, so that felt like the ultimate mystery, and the twist, as I said before, the twist that Thing was felt like irresistible, but it's always a risk. I mean, if you know what the mystery is, then it's always like, an audience is going to see through it, but I think it really worked out for us this season.
so well done and satisfying. I'm so happy I got the opportunity to ask this particular question. We haven't run out of time. Jenna, I have to talk about episode 6. I love, love, love a good body swap scenario anytime. The two of you are, and like, I'm not being hyperbolic, I believe it, are like utter perfection playing each other, and I was so impressed by it. So, surprise, surprise, big two-part question about that. For you, what was the most challenging part of capturing Enid accurately? And can you tell us something you saw Emma do that made you go like, my God, like you nailed it. That is a perfect Wednesday asset.
I mean, that script came in a couple of weeks before we shot it. I remember it was, we were writing as, you guys were writing as we were going, and it wasn't something that we had talked about in a pitch meeting. So it was very brand new.
It's true.
And very, I think it just kind of came out of left field, so to be kind of knocked on your feet like that was exciting, but if anything, I was just so, if I had to do that with anyone, I was so immensely grateful that it was Emma Myers, who plays Enid, is just absolutely outstanding and just the perfect professional and so sweet and very, very hardworking. And I remember those weeks leading up being really difficult because we were doing cello, we were doing fencing, we were getting ready for the ball. To be a producer, there's a lot more meetings and things like that you have to go to, so my schedule was pretty tight. But like you know, Emma and I just we didn't have a lot of time to practice, but you know, she came in and did what she needed to do, and I just was kind of racking my head like, I don't know. The biggest challenge for me was probably just wanting to do justice to her character and you know, making sure that Emma was happy with everything. And then, sorry, what was the second half of that question?
Something you saw her do that made you go, oh my God, you nailed Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, she was, so much of the character is physicality, and it takes a lot of concentration to be that still. And there was a couple of times where, you know, I would see something from the monitor, you know, she would ask me a question, and to see her, I always told her, it's like, I lead with the eyes, everything comes from, because it's almost like Wednesday's got eyes on the back of her head. So I felt pretty proud when I saw her take that so seriously, or she might like hit herself after taking, oh, I forgot to do this, and it was just very sweet to see someone put so much time and effort into something that you had placed a lot of effort in.
Pays off so well, it's so good. Chris, I'll loop you in on that episode too. Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, the creative opportunities that a storyline like that affords you when it comes to playing with character themes?
Yeah, it was like, what does Wednesday's theme sound like through Enid and vice versa? And I found that I couldn't be as playful as I wanted to be, because ultimately it became distracting. So I ultimately had to just kind of stick to whatever the story was communicating. But it was a lot of fun to play Wednesday's theme in Enid's face, you know, as she's, and there were also fun opportunities to kind of do effecty things and do some reversey things. But it was also really incredible to have them together at the end of that scene, when they're sort of telling each other their deepest secrets, and have them in each other's bodies playing the other characters' themes as they're telling them what they love the most about each other. There was something really moving about that for me as well.
So effective all around. I got to start winding down soon. I'm going to squeeze in 2 more questions. Jen, one is for you, because another part that I absolutely loved is Bad Moon Rising. And I was reading that a goal for the team was to get Catherine to sing in season 2. So can you tell me about finding that out and then figuring out the perfect song for her? And also what it was like hearing Billie Piper join in on that with her too.
So Bad Moon Rising has been on our show playlist of ideas, and when this opportunity came up, it was, I mean, for me and my co-music supervisor, Nicole, we were just like, are we really going to be a part of a song that Catherine Zeta-Jones is going to be singing? And then, you know, I happened to be in Ireland when we were recording it. We worked with our music producer, Alana, who did a beautiful arrangement that was perfect for both Kat's and Billie's voice. worked with Alan Miles to obviously get it to the tempo and the feeling that we want. It was just, it was just an amazing collaboration. And then when I was able to be in the studio in Ireland, it was kind of a very much a pinch me moment in my career. And it was just really exciting to finally, be able to, we have two incredible voices in our show, so why would we not, have this beautiful musical moment, and Bad Moon Rising just fits into the whole aesthetic of the show between that and having Don't Fear the Reaper and Sweet, you know what I mean? So it was just, the song was perfect, the arrangement was perfect, and the performances were just amazing. So we were very lucky to be a part of that process.
We'll listen to that over and over. As we wind down here, Alan Miles, I'll give you my last question, and it bums me out that we don't have time to pose it. The time went up a little bit. I don't know. Maybe more people can jump up and join in on this question if you want. But I try to squeeze this question in as often as possible because I love award season. I love when we give flowers to other people in this business, but I also find that nobody stops to tell themselves good job as much as they should. So can you each pinpoint something you managed to accomplish making Wednesday season 2 that you're always going to be able to look back and say, like, my God, I cannot believe we did that, and I'm so proud of it.
Go, Miles.
No,
Miles is British. He loves to compliment himself.
Well, I think it's always intimidating to follow something like season 1 of this show. So when you have the #1 show on Netflix, how do you top that, and how do you keep your heads? And I think we're always very hard on ourselves as creators and writers to never disappoint an audience or this incredible group of people who we collaborate with every day, and we are so thankful for them. So I think that was always the challenge for us, that we wanted to really expand the world, but also really get deeper into the characters and have a season that was, second seasons are notoriously difficult and disappointing, and we really, really wanted this to be rewarding in every way, on the screen, but also as an experience for our incredible team here. So that was something I think we could look back and I think we achieved, and I'm incredibly proud of our work and the work of everyone here and in Ireland and all the other actors.
I like that. All right. With that, I won't put the pressure on anybody else unless someone has an example they want to throw in.
Come on, throw an example. Let's go. Come on, Mustard.
Anyone else?
Come on,
Before we close
Mustard.
this out?
I'm going to say getting a song from the biggest pop star on the planet, a once-in-a-lifetime talent, and it was really easy. It was very painless process. The song was perfect, the dance was perfect, everything, and it really was, it was seamless, and that's because we had so many great people involved. But yeah, Lady Gaga for sure.
Yeah, I want to say I was the other star. Bésame mucho in the shower.
Yes.
That is true.
Which is an incredible song in our Latin culture, and I was very proud that you guys wrote that
We wanted to
song.
get that in from
Me-
the beginning.
Dude, I was in the studio for 6 weeks. So yeah, bésame mucho, anytime.
Come on, Mustard. Let's go.
I think the fact that we managed to transition the whole show to Dublin and no one noticed was the biggest challenge we had creatively. Which was a challenge. It was a look we'd established it in lots of locations and places, and then we took it to Dublin, and I don't think anybody really noticed. We'd changed, we'd moved, and we transported Nevermore with us, and carried on seamlessly. And I think that was a challenge in itself.
It really is a lot. Okay, come on then, Tom. Let's go.
I don't know what I have on that one.
Come on.
I got one. After 30 years, after Zorro, I can still swim.
Finally, you saw And she came in on her birthday.
I came on my
On her birthday to do.
What's the full story? This is a great story. Come on.
The best story was Catherine came in on her birthday. We shot that sword fight over many days and weeks and different locations, and we had to have Catherine come in on her birthday. And Catherine's like, I can, but I have a dinner beforehand. So she comes in, and her dinner was with Bono. Catherine and Michael Douglas, her husband, also the same birthday.
And I said, I'll have to bring my husband in at some point. But anyway, he never came in the end because he was drinking with Bono.
He was drinking with Bono. Catherine shows us this video of Bono serenading her and Michael with Happy Birthday, and we're just like, it's good to be Catherine Zeta-Jones.
I know, but then I get to, I get to go and
then you came in, literally came in sober play for 3 hours. So.
It's like, you hasn't lost that. It's good to be able to sword fight, you know?
What about Colleen? Come on.
I just never think about my work that way, sorry. What's next, not what already happened. So for me, I think the support of my team in Ireland was tremendous, and that, you know, they really don't get enough credit, the people that are there every day. So it's the thing that, you know, for me is the most important thing about my job, really, because you're nothing without them.
Well, now we have to finish everybody. There's a couple of people who didn't answer.
Yes. Well, I mean, for me, the best scene for me was always the Some of Your Parts scene, simply because I thought it was a super well written piece of work, but it's such an absurd concept, and it came together, like all the departments that were working on it came together on that and made it all work. And to me, that was the highlight of the show, because it's a scene that shouldn't make any sense, it shouldn't work, and yet somehow it did.
Yeah, so it's really moving.
Yeah, the allegory is there for the whole show, the emotional content is there, it all lands, so to me that was the high point.
Great example. Chris?
Sticking in the theme world, my favorite, if I may, character to write for is Enid, because she has the most overt breadth of emotion. She displays everything from K-pop bubblegum to rage to fear to and the moment when she invites herself to transform to save Wednesday, that was so much fun for me to score, because I had no idea when I wrote that theme in season 1 what she was going to become, and to be able to do that in this huge moment of self-sacrifice, but also heroism, but also have it also be this big epic moment that it was. I was really proud of that moment, and it got me emotionally, if I'm allowed to say that. But it was the whole of the, not the music that got me, but the whole of the scene working together that got me.
Love it. Jenna, you're not getting left out on this one.
I don't know, I don't really look, I never feel that way. Yeah, I guess, it's a big character and a big show, and definitely the most demanding, time-consuming, just kind of monstrous character and show that I've ever done. So it's like, I had forgotten coming into the season what an endurance test is, and just there every day before everybody else, and leaving and still working at home. And then, like you said, I wouldn't say I'm like necessarily proud, but that episode, it really sent me into a bit of a panic, and something like that can turn out really bad. Like if that doesn't work, that's hideous. That's like, and I was fearful of that going up, but so far, like on the street and things like that, it seems like that's what people are the most taken by. Again, I put a lot of that on Emma, but it had been a long time since I'd had so much energy, let alone in that costume.
Well, Jenna's underselling herself. I mean, she's an extraordinary leader on set. The other cast look up to her. She brings so much to Wednesday. She can do so much in a look. When she and Emma really took care of each other on that body swap episode, and really their bar was each other, but then they took care of each other on set while doing it, and it's extraordinary. It's an extraordinary episode, but Jenna's extraordinary through the entire season, and so I will give her the props that she won't give herself.
I'm very proud of the Irish crew stepping in.
Yeah.
It's not. I say it's an endurance test for me, but I'm not the one lugging around equipment and loading trucks every day and, you know, showing up and making something that Tim said he wanted 2 minutes ago, you know, like it's not easy, and it reflects really well, and they make it better.
Should be proud of that. Congratulations on Wednesday.